Hello everyone, my name is Aspa and I'm a lecturer in psychology at Manchester Metropolitan University. Today I will discuss about some very preliminary results from my first qualitative study, looking at what it is like to cycle tour. That is, what is it like to go from place to place with a bicycle as part of a long distance holiday and why people do that. So bicycle tourism could be defined as going away from an individual's home, and participation in cycling is the main purpose of the trip. So cycling should be a fundamental component of the journey. Now, this definition is quite broad. It includes cycling in the countryside for a day. It includes going away from home and cycling away from that location every day, but returning to the same place every day. And it includes what I'm interested in, which is cycling from place to place. So why do individuals do this type of cycling, and what is it like to do this kind of cycling? I'm particularly interested in it because I feel it's an activity that um, involves a lot of commitment. So you should spend quite a lot of time preparing your trip, knowing where you're going, looking at maps. And it seems to me that it involves a lot of intrinsic motivation. And my other interest is creativity, and intrinsic motivation um, is very important for creativity, I think. And also, to my mind, cycling from place to place is most is the type of cycling that is mostly associated with an adventure. It's a long-term adventure with a beginning, middle, and an end. And um, for me, there is something very special about it. Um, Green cycling is very relevant here as typically cycle touring tends to involve mainly cycling in the countryside, although it does involve going through cities and towns potentially, but the majority of it is in the countryside. So green exercise refers to physical activity that is um, happens while you engaging with the natural environment. Um, and Clacking and Bale showed that green cycling enhances cyclists' sense of well-being and ability to deal with challenges, um, and it leads to more satisfying exercise experiences. However, they only looked at cycling a single day in the countryside rather than cycling for several days. So, in this study, I wanted to explore how individuals make sense of cycle touring. I also wanted to explore their motivations for engaging in this activity, as well as what they think they get out of it. How did I do this study? Here is me in the village of How. So I did semi-structured interviews. I interviewed five participants, two males, three females. Uh, Ages ranged from 31 to 56 years of age. Um, Here I will present some very preliminary analysis for two out of the five participants. I used interpretative phenomenological analysis, which is ideal for capturing the embodied experience of a phenomenon to understand the unique meanings of cycle touring and also exploring the lived experience of cycle touring. So regarding infrastructure, the participants talked a lot about signed cycle paths. Um, When you cycle for utility within the city, for example, you probably don't cycle too far, but when you cycle tour, you travel over a long distance and you need to organize it. So you need to know where you're going. And although participants did use electronic devices and sat-navs, they still organized their holiday around signed cycle paths. In Britain, we have the National Cycling Network by Sustrans, and they have maps and they have signed cycle paths. So the participants talked a lot about these maps, the directions that are there. There's a suggested accommodation in Sustrans website, and so they refer to it as a really good resource. There's a route that you can follow, and although some of the routes are not very well maintained, um, it's really important they are there. Another really important theme was the connection to nature. Um, at the end of the interview, I asked Alex to tell me about a positive experience, just to finish the interview about in a very positive way. And they were saying about a particular trip at a particular time where they were climbing up the hill. It was really difficult, and then they were descending, just looking at the sky, and the wind was very cooling, and it was just a wonderful experience. And the participant was quite emotional about this actually. So they paint a really lovely picture with a great connection to the countryside. Similar, Taylor talks about seeing hares in the field, deers in the woods, and stop, just look at the butterflies. Then you notice the smell of the blossoms and different trees and flowers, and so that's total freedom. So every time I feel like I'm 10 years old again. So the um, being in touch with nature is an important part of cycle touring because typically most of the time you are in the countryside. Another theme was social bonding. Um, so participants talk about bonding with the other cyclists. So at the end of a 2-week trip, I miss those people because we shared everything over that period of time, and there was a real sense of loss by the end of it. So it was really nice to spend time together. So the participants talk about a cycle club as well. So you get to know these people because you share experiences in particular situations and you make bonds with these people. Um, uh, Participants also talked about creating memories with family, so it's a real special time, and as long as it was a fun experience, is then something that's something positive to recall with the family. Um, and also they talked about um, bonding with strangers. So, for example, at some point, the cycling group, had to repair a puncture, and it was raining, and so the newsagent was allowed them to go in so that they weren't in the rain. They were just happy to help them. Um, Another participant told me about the fact that people that were in the accommodation were very interested about where the cycle group was going. So cycle touring creates a lot of interest and a lot of a kind of positive response from people around. Another theme that was really important was having a positive state of mind. Um, so Alex mentioned that more important even than the physical aspect of cycle touring is that it gives them a headspace that they never got from anything else. Just something that really strange happens that, sit on my saddle and start pedaling. Um, she continues saying that it's just about having peace in my head. I can just take myself away. Um, and also you get a real sense of achievement, a real sense of satisfaction that you got somewhere under your own steam. And Taylor mentioned that it's just lovely to just enjoy being out and sharing the same interest with a friend. I was particularly struck by something that Alex mentioned because I am very interested in creativity. Um, and she mentioned that although they were in the moment as they were cycling, and in a very they were actually imagining themselves writing a blog about what was happening while they were on their bike. So comedy, even comedy quips and things like that. Um, so some of the things were forgotten, of course. So they mention I'm focusing on what I'm doing and the things around me, but I have space to think and think really clearly about things and have some great ideas. Um, so apart from the fact that kind of you see that the participant sort of feels more creative, I kind of feel that the participant sees themselves in a different light with almost a different identity, a creative identity. Um, None of the participants were professional writers or professional comedians, but in a way they can see themselves as being that and sharing their stories with other people. And one of the participants mentioned that they are writing a blog on their cycling adventures, and another one that they were doing a talk about it. So these results agree with previous studies that have shown um, an association between green exercise and elevation in mood and increased well-being. Um, it was nice to see a link between creativity and physical exercise. It has been shown in previous studies that there's physical exercise can lead to increased creativity. I think going forward, the concept of flow would be very relevant in the study, kind of the idea of being in the zone. And finally, the importance of science cycle paths and generally cycling infrastructure was highlighted in this study. Here are my references. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to your feedback.